Welcome everyone. It's nice to see you tonight. As most of you already know, we're currently discussing the practice of meditation stage by stage, going through all the various processes that are required to support the practice, as well as the processes which disturb the practice. So right now we are actually covering what we call in the classical literature actually the 5 hindrances. And so far we have covered the first 3 of them. This session is about the 4th of those 5 hindrances, which is known as restlessness and remorse, or restlessness and worry, or restlessness and anxiety. So it's basically about restlessness. Okay. So restlessness is a hindrance which is extremely common. I think most of you guys know what restlessness means. You know how it feels like to be restless, either in body or in your mind. So there's 2 types of restlessness. One is the restlessness that you experience in your body. Sometimes you sit down in meditation, you try to sit still, but there's this very bouncy kind of energy inside of your body that kind of wants to express itself. Sometimes you really want to fidget, you really want to move, you feel kind of supercharged, almost like as if you just had a coffee, Red Bull, and all that kind of stuff all together. You feel super excited in the body. That is restlessness in the body. Okay? Well, that can be mild, it can be severe. It can be so severe that you just can't keep it together and you really have to move. Well, sometimes you see people who express that while they're waiting somewhere in a waiting room or so. Kind of shaking their legs, you know, this kind of thing, or moving their hands, or playing with something constantly, like having something in their hand that they constantly need to play with, like a pen or something like that, or a phone, or they can't sit still. It's really hard to sit still for them. Why does that happen? Why do we have this restlessness in our body? It's simply our lifestyle. It's the way we move, the way we eat, the way we sleep, the way we entertain ourselves leads to that. And very often it is restlessness in the mind which is then reflected in the body, restless thinking. So your mind going from idea to idea, from thought to thought, you're constantly thinking about stuff, thinking about the past, about the future, scenarios, worries, fears, doubts, etc. All that steers the mind up, and once the mind is steered up, it kind of translates into your emotional being. The way you think leads to the way you feel, and the way you feel leads to an expression in the body, the way you act in the physical realm. So that's the way how mental restlessness actually leads to physical restlessness very often. Sometimes you might have thoughts which are so uncomfortable. Maybe you think about things that you did in your past that you really regret, or that you feel super shameful about. You have these kind of thoughts about, you know, your personal own cringy moments of your past. You might even cringe right now if you think about, oh my God, I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have done that. That was embarrassing. Right? We all know these feelings. Or you might just think of a certain food that you really dislike. And as you think, the body reacts. And the body immediately becomes restless. It immediately starts to feel uncomfortable. Restlessness is a hindrance that feels incredibly uncomfortable. So in that respect, we can say it's easy to let go of because you really don't want to have it. It's much harder to let go of hindrances that feel comfortable, that feel nice. That's much more difficult. So as restlessness in general feels really uncomfortable, you might feel motivated enough to actually do something about it, to get rid of it, and to go deeper into your meditation practice. I would also say that restlessness is particularly difficult for beginners in meditation because you do not know the alternative yet. You don't know just how nice you could feel if restlessness is gone. So for most of us, the only thing we actually know is restlessness. We have never really gone beyond that. And going beyond restlessness would imply that you have had sincere and proper mental training for a long time, so that you can calm yourself to a great extent. And that is for most of us not the case. Most of us haven't spent time in a monastery for many years or so. And most of us did not have the type of training that it takes to overcome restlessness, so that you can kind of peek beyond it and you can see what's behind it on the other side. There's no need to despair. You don't have to actually go into a monastery or live in a cave or something like that to experience how it is like to go beyond restlessness. But it takes a lot of effort in the beginning to get your first glimpse of how nice it can be when that hindrance comes to an end. And what's the opposite of restlessness? It's peace. You're at peace. Your mind is at peace. It's content. So we can also say contentment is one of the antidotes of restlessness. So how do you overcome restlessness? You need to learn to be content with this moment, to be okay with the way it is. That's why always in the beginning of the practice I say, well, we set up our mind, our attitude, and the attitude is characterized by kindness and compassion. Kindness here is the aspect of acceptance. You're accepting yourself. That in a way is very similar to contentment. First you accept the way you are right now. Okay, I feel super restless. Can I relax anyways? It's not easy, huh? But it's a really worthwhile training, because at the same time you're building the power of patience. Be able to endure, not to just run away at the slightest unease and slightest discomfort. You become more resilient, more powerful, more grounded, more centered within yourself, not as afraid anymore of problems. You know you can handle problems when big restlessness kind of flows all through your body, and you can relax anyways. You can stay calm and centered. You can be cool even though your body is on fire. That's a pretty good skill to have. Next time someone will be in your face or saying something to you that you disagree with, or voicing an opinion that is not in alignment with your own opinion, you might allow them to have a different opinion and you can relax about it. And that's pretty practical in daily life. So you don't have to immediately educate other people of how they should be thinking. You can simply relax and allow the world to be as it is. You can give other people freedom to live, just like you want to have freedom to live. You can relax about things, right? That's pretty practical and it's good. Avoiding conflict, avoiding problems in our daily life, this is actually unnecessary. It'll lead to a lot of heartaches and pains that don't need to be. We don't need more pain and problem in this world, so it helps to be able to let go of pain within ourselves before we share it with other people. So it's kind of like taking responsibility. Instead of running through the streets shouting that you want the world to be a better place, start with yourself. Free the world from your own problems. That would be a start, no? We all have anger issues, we all have jealousy, we all have pride, greed, all these things. We're all impatient, etc. There's a lot of stuff to clean up within ourselves. And that should be done before we actually look at other people and say, well, you should get your act together. How about myself getting my act together first? Starting with little things in my life. Every day doing something a little bit better. And that is pretty difficult. That's not easy. First of all, seeing yourself is not easy. It's probably one of the hardest things ever, to honestly look at yourself and to see, wow, I'm quite a mess actually. My mind is not quiet. My emotions are all over the place. My actions are erratic. I don't even know what I really want in my life. I don't even know who I really am. I haven't really taken the effort to actually become quiet and truly define myself as who I am and what I really want from myself and other people around me. And so we kind of bounce around in the area of life like like a pinball, right? So of course then we become enslaved to what goes on around us. We become enslaved to circumstances very easily. If someone says something that you disagree with, for example, you have to feel bad. You don't even have a choice. Even though you don't like feeling bad, but you have to because someone said something. That is slavery. That's not freedom, right? And so how can we deal with this? Simply, how can you keep your peace even though the world is quite a difficult place to keep your peace in? How can you keep your peace? You got to learn to stay centered, and we do that by practicing when things get difficult. Restlessness is difficult. It's like ants crawling on your skin when you try to meditate. It's really difficult. Can you relax anyways? Can you be patient anyways? And you'll find if you practice like this more and more, eventually you become really settled, really cool within yourself. You're not easily reactive. You're not as impulsive as you have been before. You think before you act. You have the ability to step back first. You have that moment that is really worthwhile. Sometimes we say things out of anger which are incredibly hurtful to ourselves and to the other person, which can make the situation so much worse. And it's just one thing that we said. And how nice would it have been if you had that moment where you could have stepped back and evaluated the situation, seen where you're heading, and then stopped. That is power. You're in control. You're in charge of what you actually, in my opinion, should be in charge of. Yourself. Don't you agree? It's a good thing if you can be in charge of yourself. You can be in charge of your mind, your emotions. What does it mean being in charge of that? It means simply that you are able to give it a good direction. What's a good direction? Direction which is beneficial for yourself and for others in the short as well as in the long term. That's beneficial. So in other words, you free the world from your own suffering, bit by bit. And that can only happen if you learn to work with your own suffering, if we don't run away from it. And the habit of running away from our own suffering is pretty strongly ingrained in our minds, in our bodies, in our hearts. We don't want to suffer. So when suffering comes up, like restlessness, we want to avoid it. So what do? You move the body. That avoids restlessness for another 2 minutes. Then it comes back. Then you avoid it again. Maybe you sit somewhere and you feel bored. What do? You avoid it. How do you avoid it? How do you avoid your boredom? There's many ways, right? In reality, it simply means you're quite not at ease with yourself. If you would be at ease with yourself, it would be quite easy for you to just sit there. You're happy with yourself. You like yourself. You don't need to look away. You don't need to do something else. You're at ease with yourself. But you can see that sometimes in old people. They have lived a long time already. They're quite settled. They're quite at ease. They can sit on a park bench for 2 hours and just look. That's a skill. That probably for many people comes through having lived a long time already. So they're quite like grounded. But you don't have to wait until you're old to be able to do that. You could practice that. Like go into a coffee shop and, even though everybody is looking into their phones, be the only one in the coffee shop that has a real cup of coffee, enjoying the coffee fully. Make it a point. Take pride in doing things fully and with quality, and do them well. It will serve you. I'm saying not these things to kind of preach like a moral preacher or something like this, but I'm saying these things to give you a fair chance to to better yourself and to have a lifestyle and that you feel proud of, that you like, that you admire, so that in 1 year's time you lead a life that you would really respect right now. That is one major reason for happiness. That's why people feel happy. They like themselves. So the other part of that, this is a couple, right? We have first restlessness as the energy, and then we have remorse. Remorse arises precisely due to a lifestyle that you feel regretful about. Like you did things in your past that you think, I wish I wouldn't have done those things. You said things, you thought things, it's even more subtle, that you wish you wouldn't have thought. If your thoughts were on display for all to see, always, would you restrain your thoughts? Just imagine, like the picture that I give sometimes, you have a pair of speakers and you hook it into your head and everyone can hear your thoughts 24/7. Would you restrain your thoughts? Would you train them? Would you teach them to behave? Of course you would, because now everyone else could see them too. So you feel a sense of shame. But you know who sees your thoughts and who experiences them every day? You. So in a way, it's like lying to yourself. You still deceive someone. And it is yourself. Imagine what that means if you deceive yourself or disappoint yourself. How can you disappoint yourself? Any examples? Give me an example of how you could disappoint yourself. Something very common.
Lacking integrity.
Say it again.
Lacking integrity in an answer you give or something like that.
How would you disappoint yourself? Give me an example of disappointing yourself, yes.
Having knowing what is the best you can do, the best version of yourself, and if what comes out of yourself is not up to that.
Okay, yes, all right. So being able, like, you could do that, but you don't.
Yes.
All right. Another maybe simple example is you say something and then you don't do what you say. That's very common. I'll be there at 5 and it's 5:10 and you arrive. You're not there at 5. And I don't want to be like kind of super German about it, even though I'm a German and we're known to be like super obsessed about time, you know. But that's a quality. Like imagine your friends could fully rely on you if, imagine you would be the guy that everyone else knows. If he says it, he does it. If she says that she will be there at 5, she will be there at 5. And everyone can rely on you. That's the power that you build with that. This is not like just an easy thing to be dismissed. Come on, it's just 10 minutes. It's not about the 10 minutes. It's much more about how trustworthy are you? Can I truly rely on you? This is big stuff. Take it seriously. The more seriously you take it, your own word, the more powerful your word becomes. Wouldn't that be nice? Imagine your word has weight and you would say something and people trusted you, full on. That's great, and that's also a big responsibility. And you want to make sure that you say the right things. You want to make sure that you're not just talking whatever comes to your mind. You want to make sure that what you talk about has, as we say in German, hand and feet. It has a firm foundation. It's complete. It's well thought through. Because you can. These are all like little things that lead to the opposite of remorse. Now, I'm saying these things because not doing these things leads to remorse, leads to a subtle sense of disappointment with yourself. How is that a hindrance in meditation, you might wonder? Why do we feel disturbed by remorse? Sometimes, in fact, remorse can be so intense that you cannot practice meditation until you have settled the matter, until you've gone to your friend and apologized, because otherwise you just can't stop thinking about it. The mind obsesses about things that you could have done better, and it's probably a warning mechanism of the mind, and it often manifests when people die. They think of all the things that they could have done, and then it's like, I wish I would have said thank you to my mom, or I wish I would have said I love you to my sister, or something like that. I never did that. I wish I would have done that. Now I can't. So these things become important. And they kind of eat away at your inner peace. You can't be fully relaxed if you're not at ease with what you've done. There's a Tibetan yogi, his name is Milarepa. He lived quite a long time ago, and he said, I've mentioned that before, he said that my religion is to live, to die without regret. That's a very tall order statement. To die without regret. It means your actions have to be spot on. What you do every day, like everything you do as a being, has weight, it's important. What you say, what you think, it matters, it's important. And if it's chaotic and misaligned, it also matters, but it will create results that are just like that, chaotic and misaligned. But imagine if your thoughts, your mind, your speech, your emotions, your body, your actions is fully aligned. Imagine the power that you can manifest in your life. What you can do if you're just single-pointed. That's quite a powerful state to be in. And then let that be pushed by kindness. Let it be pushed by compassion. You all have the potential to live truly great, inspiring lives. And that is what makes you feel at peace with yourself. At the end of the day, when you sit down on your cushion, then there's just you and what you've done before. And you're alone with that. Can you carry it? Can you shoulder that? Are you all right with yourself? Do you like yourself? When that's the case, meditation comes easy. There's no remorse, no regret. You have done well. Now what you have done in your past, it's already done. Now, but you could do better. That's the way out. Sometimes we obsess about things we have done in the past. Oh my God, I wish I wouldn't have done that. I feel so guilty about it. Fair enough. Guilt isn't really useful though. What's useful is shame. Realizing, oh, shouldn't have done that. I've heard it myself, I heard another person. How could I do better next time? Now there's change. Your errors have led to transformation. You now do better. You have learned from your mistakes. That's forgiving yourself. Does that make sense? Forgiving yourself is not some abstract kind of formula that you need to recite to yourself, like I forgive myself. Forgiving yourself means that you have made a firm resolution in your mind to do better today. Now. And then you actually follow through with that resolution. That's the process of forgiveness. That's what sets you free from the past. It is your action right now. It is also shaping your future. This is your great potentials, your power as a human being. You are shaping your future right now with what you think, what you feel, what you do. Sitting here in this room together, you have changed your future. You're doing it right now. At the moment, what we do all together collectively is orienting ourselves. Maybe find a higher goal, something worthwhile to follow. something that lifts you up. And with that, of course, all those around you. And then sit down and meditate. There will be no remorse. And very often without remorse, no restlessness. You'll be totally at ease with yourself. You like yourself, in other words. So you can rest with yourself. Otherwise, restlessness is a bit like sitting in a room, in a tiny room, together with someone that you hate. It's unbearable. But being in a tiny room with someone that you love, that's wonderful. Your guys are going to have a good time in that tiny room. And this is a tiny room. You are a tiny room. If there's conflict within yourself, that's restlessness. We let that go by making a firm intention to focus, to be content with the way it is, and to improve the way it is, by bringing more clarity and focus, tranquility, concentration, and rapture. Another point that really counteracts restlessness is rapture. When you feel blissful, joyful, happy, you kind of don't want to go anywhere else with your mind. You're happy here. That's an antidote to restlessness. And the happiness comes with more focus. So that will come with time. Until then, we have to make some sort of effort to lift ourselves out of that unstable, scattery kind of mind. And upgrade the mind. Really train it well. And then it will start to serve you. Right? As they say, the mind is a terrible master, but a wonderful slave. The master can follow... if the mind is your master, and if that master is ruthless, if that master is drunk, if that master is out of his mind, and it's not a good news, right? You will suffer from that. It's a different story if it's a decent master. You want to have a master like that, good, fine. But even better, if you are the one that instructs the mind how to shape itself, how to form itself in the future, how to become. And you can only do that if you're present. If you're not present, you don't even notice what's going on. So presence is the basis of action. It's the basis of change. It's the basis of the end of suffering. It's the fact that you look at yourself here and now and you see what's going on. Okay, so that's all that comes to mind for tonight. Are there any questions?